Welcome back, Mistakes listeners. This is Dave, and this is episode 50. Can you believe this is episode 50? We have done 50 episodes. I'm going out of my mind. And I'm sounding like a used car salesman. Oh well. Anyway, this episode was recorded on January 25th, 2016, or 1/25/2016. As you know, we have Twitter, which you can actually tweet on at Parent Mistakes, and you can also like us on Facebook at Parenting Mistakes. You can also email us at parentingmistakes@hotmail.com. And again, episode 50, I can't believe it. Sit back and enjoy the show. Todd.
Yes.
Well, dare I say once again that before I say it, I'm going to say it again. You are the elder parent, and I seek your guidance, Hirayama. I go to the mountain once again to ask the question.
I am the Jedi Master of Parents.
Of my future. Right. So I was processing some things tonight in the pre-show, and one of the things that came to my mind was, at what point should my daughters be deciding certain things for themselves? And to take that a step further, at what point do you think it was that Emma had the chance to start making some adult decisions, or in this case, just to kind of keep it in our wheelhouse, when do you think Emma had the ability to start picking her own shows? So, for example, if Emma wants to, can she watch Game of Thrones?
No.
Well, that's easy because you guys don't have HBO in your house.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. But if she's at a friend's house...
I would say that we are aware of what our children watch all the way through, I would say even through this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've certainly given, and just to catch people up, my oldest, Emma, is 17. She's about to turn 18. She's a senior in high school. And so I would say even up until this year, she would let us know what she's watching. We know what she's watching in the house. If she goes to a friend's house, she would say, hey, we're going to watch this movie. And she sort of knows our range. She has not watched hardly any rated R films. So I would say now we've reached a point where she has created sort of her own set of standards, which are similar to ours. So I guess to answer your original question, I don't know if there's an actual age. I mean, it varies on content, right? I mean, certainly early on, it's fine for kids to ask, say, hey, Dad, I want to watch this show. And you can say, okay, either no or yes, or let's talk about this. Why do you want to watch this show? Why is this show appealing?
I think the issue...
How's that for a lack of an answer?
No, I mean, it's a very interesting topic to discuss, because there comes a point in time where they're going to have to make some of their own entertainment decisions on their own.
Yes.
And I also think to myself, one of the issues that we've actually never tackled on the show, which is a weird one to tackle, but it's like, how do you ease somebody into, say, violence? Because I would say that you and I, at this point, we sat down, we watched Arrow. Arrow is really violent, right? There's a lot of things, and as you watch that entire show, there are just some horrible things to happen to people on that show, right? If anything, we saw a bunch of scars all over Arrow that have some sort of horrible explanation for at some point. And I go, yeah, it's edgy, it's all this stuff that, we've been indoctrinated into. But say, like with Jonathan, do you think there's a point in time when he should just start watching violent films, so that way he's ready for the better entertainment to come? Because we find that stuff entertaining now. I mean, okay, I don't want to put you in the same boat that I'm in, right? I know that you've watched some shows that you found entertaining that were on the violent side.
Yes.
But I did not have any parental guidance growing up to say, all right, Dave, here you go. This is at the point in time when you can see some man's head cut off.
Yeah, I think some of it, and certainly the internet gives us a tremendous tool that our parents did not have.
Sure.
So, because I can go online and I can go onto a website like Kids in Mind, which, by the way, folks, that's a pretty good website, because that site will describe to me in detail what's in a film from a standpoint of sexuality, violence, and language. They'll be very specific. It'll say, we see a scene where a man is being tortured and then they lop his head off.
Sure.
I mean, it's pretty general, but it does give you it doesn't give you all the gory details, but it basically says this is what you're going to see in this movie. So I can go on to that. So if my son or my daughter comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to watch this movie," sometimes I'll say, "Okay, let me do a little research on that and get back to you." So I think you reach a point where I think high school is where you start to give them a little bit more freedom because, again, as to your point, they start to go to more friends' houses. I mean, they go to friends' houses, even in elementary school. And we would always tell our kids, when you go to a house and you're going to watch a movie, we want you to, if you don't know what it is, like if you are unsure, we want you to call us and say, we're going to watch this movie. And that would obviously put our kids in sort of a awkward position sometimes because not all parents are going to be that strict on it.
Sure.
They're not going to want to create a scene. They're not going to want to embarrass their kid. They're not going to make them the oddball out that goes, oh, I can't watch that movie, and everybody else wants to watch it. And part of this has to do with, who you have your kids hang out with.
Yes.
Because it's not easy to just say, okay, you're going to go to this friend's house, you're not going to go to that friend's house, but you sort of learn over time. You learn which parents have certain boundaries. And I think what we've reached a point with Emma in high school is that, when she became like a sophomore and junior and she's at more houses and, sort of the PG-13 teen type movies.
Sure. Yeah, if she's watching Twilight, there's a lot of violence in that. I'm just saying, but that is that's a target movie for her, and I would be shocked if she hadn't seen something of it.
Sure. And we sometimes would have conversations where we'd say, okay, you can watch this movie, but we think you could make a better choice.
Interesting.
Or we would say, yeah, we'll give you permission, but we're pretty sure that this movie is a giant zero in terms of any sort of value. And
what I find interesting, though, but what I find interesting, I'm cutting you off.
That's all right.
What I'm trying to pinpoint is that there are two ways to kind of look at it from my perspective, which is, the movies are going to be out there, and should they discover those movies on their own but have an open door policy at home to talk about them? It sounds like you kind of sit in the other camp, which is, there's the potential movie on the horizon. Let's make sure that they're making the right choice about their entertainment viewing.
Yes, and I think some of it has to do with how strong you want to be and confident and comfortable you want to be as a parent in anticipating these requests.
Right, or being reactive to it, I suppose. I tell you, Todd, I had no guidance whatsoever. A prime example is I saw Poltergeist in 4th grade. It devastated me beyond imagination. I could not believe it. I couldn't sleep for nights. And my parents were like, suck it up, right? There wasn't any discussion about it. It was like, you screwed up. You should have seen that movie. And I sat with it, right? There wasn't any sort of like, well, that, and more or less, I'm not trying to dog my parents, but it was kind of like my dad was like, that was dumb, right? Go to sleep.
Well, in some ways, he was probably correct. That was dumb.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that, and I know that stuff is out
film.
there. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That is a freaky film.
Well, sure. For a 10-year-old, it was way too much. It's like, oh my lord.
I think you have to, as a parent, you have to anticipate these requests, and you also have to be comfortable with, I don't want to say upsetting your child, but basically just saying no. Just say, no, you're not watching that. And be ready for the, well, so-and-so watches it.
That I get. What I'm trying to pick in this, and it's so hazy here, it's trying to indoctrinate our children into pop culture and fielding it in a positive manner and going, because this is what's weird, is that at some point, Jonathan is probably, or Emma or Kayleen or Maddie are going to make some media decisions that are a lot more, say, risque, violent, or heavy duty, right?
Yeah, right. But you also have to sort of sit back and say, okay, indoctrinate them into pop culture, but why? Do you really have to indoctrinate them into certain pop culture?
Well, that's the question.
I don't think you do.
Well,
at least I haven't felt like I have to with my kids.
Well, I felt like I had no guide. I don't think you had a guide. Were your parents guiding you down a road to help you understand pop culture? I think Mr. Olstein was.
Yeah,
I got that there, which was excellent, right?
Well, yes, but I also had parents that, I didn't. This is the hard part because, again, you and I have talked about this. We don't know why we made some of the choices that we made in high school.
I know all of them.
Well, no, but I mean, you and I and our crew did not get into a lot of trouble.
No, we just didn't.
We had a lot of fun. We had a great time in high school. We had a great time running around, being goofy.
Oh my gosh, it's making me sound like it was 1953 and it was...
Well, but that's the thing. We had a lot of fun, but we really didn't get into trouble. And was that because our parents told us specifically don't get into trouble, or was it, again, sort of the product of our upbringing? That's the thing. I mean, parenting is subtle. Not everything is going to be a sit down in front of the fire and let's have a heart-to-heart chat about exactly how we're going to behave.
Sure.
Because your parents, who they are, was infused into you. Same with my parents infused into me. And certainly there were boundaries. I don't think I was really allowed to go watch rated R movies, the moment I was 17, but nor did I really ask to.
Yeah, I saw my first rated R movie in 8th grade, but admittedly I called my parents to ask if I could watch it, and they said yes.
Wow, risque.
Yeah, I saw saw Revenge of the Nerds. That was my first rated R movie.
Yeah.
Well, at least it wasn't like The Deer Hunter or something, right? Speaking of no parental guidance...
Whoa, I was going to say, I was almost going to go, what about when you were at summer camp?
Yeah.
You're away from your parents, and a movie pops up on the screen one night.
Oh my gosh. My summer camp experience had tons of grown-ups in it, and legitimate counselors, and this is a reflection upon the show we watched.
All right, so we watched Bunk'd.
Bunk'd.
Which is spelled B-U-N-K
D.
Bunk'd. Okay, this is a Disney Channel television series.
Yeah, we decided to jump into our favorite pool of fun.
That's right. We did not watch this on Netflix.
Nope.
We're jumping back into stuff that is, well, stuff on Netflix is current, but we went back onto the network. This is most definitively a spin-off of Jessie.
It is.
Which we reviewed quite a while ago now. It's one of our early shows of our podcast.
In internet years, it's like 50 years ago.
I know, right?
Our internet time.
So, the show is set at a summer camp. Camp Kikawaka.
That's correct.
Kikiwaka.
Kikiwaka. It's not Kiki, it's Kikiwaka. It's not as Hawaiian as you're making it sound.
Yeah, maybe not. Doesn't really matter. So, what this show features is 3 of the children who were under Jessie's care. I guess there were just the 3 kids, weren't there?
Those kids I remember. I could have sworn there was another.
There could have been. Anyway, doesn't matter. Three of the kids, at least three of the kids, if there were four, under Jesse's care, are now at summer camp. Jesse is not there.
Because these parents are not the greatest parents in the world.
Parents continue to be absentee.
Well, now Jesse's even absentee, right?
Right. Right.
It's like, no, none.
So we have these three spun off from Jesse, and we've added a couple of other kids.
Camp counselors.
Yeah, well, we've added kids and counselors. So we've added a couple of kids to round off the multinational Disney cast.
Sure, and I'm not going to dog them on that. I always appreciate that.
Hey,
I always appreciate it.
They're always trying to reach a broad audience. And we do have counselors, though I will put air quotes around the word counselors.
Right.
Because their level of authority and maturity is just a hair above the children's, if that. So, I think I know how you felt about this show.
Sure. Do I dare even need to explain it?
Well, just, summarize your,
okay, so
dare I say, disdain.
Yeah, there's like pretty much two plots that are going on. Is that the two sisters that are from Jesse's apartment, who are now sharing a cabin together, which admittedly I don't think would ever happen in real life. Usually they kind of split siblings up a little bit, especially in camping trips. And they're two different ages too. They probably had two different sides of camp. I mean, I have had a lot of camp experience, and I know how these things play out. Regardless, they're sharing a cabin, and there's a lot of misunderstanding between the two sisters because, hey, everybody knows that sisters have conflicts and they don't always get along. Which,
correct.
Oh my gosh, it's just one cliche after another, just one gimme after another. They have a spat over who's going to get more beauty time in the bathroom, a classic Disney-type plot. And they're fighting over it, and obviously they can't resolve it, so the camp counselors decide to put them in a canoe and push that canoe out to the middle of the lake so that they can resolve their issues in a canoe. That's the solution that the counselors have for these two kids. Then the other plot is basically there's these other two buddies, another brother from Jesse and another new character that are basically having a hard time because one of the characters has decided to really embrace the rules of the camp and become a dictator and tell all the other kids and give them citations for doing what's wrong because he's Bobby Brady and he needs to do what he needs to do, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. They don't get sent out in a canoe. They end up in a whole other kind of situation where there's pasta being thrown and it's absolutely hilarious, and I know you can't see my eyes rolling, but this is a podcast, so just imagine the whites of my eyes are rolling to Saturn right now because, wow. I wish it was funny. Again, I find these characters from Jesse so two-dimensional that I don't see any depth to the show.
Two-dimensional?
Yeah, one-dimensional, right? Yeah, it's Paper Mario here, right? Oh. So I can't say I laughed, and then I always have to pull back and say, so what is happening here? I did have a new idea as to why Disney does this formula. Okay. I think that a lot of the shows that we visited and watched in the 80s and some of the 90s were a lot like these shows. This formula show that we just throw in front of kids. And if a parent really sat down and watched it, they'd go, this show is not that great. Right. In fact, it's just, here I dare say it, it's schlock. However, if a parent walks in the room and just looks over the shoulder of a child and goes, what's going on? It's completely benign, and in the back of their subconscious mind, it's something they've seen from the 80s.
Sure.
Oh, I've seen this
before. It's the Brady Bunch.
Actually, the Brady Bunch has substance.
And
it's actually funny.
Does it?
Yes, I will watch it today.
Are you just nostalgic because it's the Brady Bunch and you grew up with it?
Okay, fair enough. You've got me. So
Well, I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that
this,
probably if you went back and you really objectively evaluated some of the substance of the Brady Bunch, some of it would probably also be a little thin with, bouncing the football off Marsha's nose.
yeah, and to be honest with you, this show is now post Little Lunch. In our world of Little Lunch, I go, so much could be done better and more interesting and more delightful, and the use of cameras these days and all the things that you could do to really throw into a show and make it exceptional. Like we watched with Little Lunch. I know I hound on that show a lot, but I go, that show, I would actually say the production value is a little bit lower, but they're putting effort in different places. And I think to myself, Disney, you could totally do all of that, but you're not, because they are stuck in this particular formula that, in their minds, sells.
Right.
Right?
Well, and we've discussed this before with Disney. You have two consistent elements. You have sort of a snarkiness between the characters, where they just rip on each other for the entire show.
Sure.
That's just par for the course, that they cannot just, and again, we understand, conflict is more interesting than a bunch of kids that are being nice to each other, right? And the other part is just sort of over the top overacting, hyper emotional, hypersensitivity. Everything is just sort of at a different level of energy and drama, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, some of the scenarios, the only thing I can say, and again, I don't know if this is a redeeming quality, but some of the scenarios are realistic. Girls fighting over a bathroom. I've got that in my house. Right? Which, it's amusing sometimes and annoying other times.
Yeah, it's just like a Disney show, I'm sure.
Yeah. And again, the other thing that I did take from this, which I thought was a semi-realistic, appreciable element, was the kids discovering that being in an authority position is not all it's cracked up to be.
So you're talking about the camp counselors who decide to basically shove the two girls out into the middle of the lake.
No, I'm talking about the sister, the older sister, who is sort of I can't remember the terminology they use, but she's trying to be a
CRI or something like that.
Yeah, she's like a
counselor in training, CIT.
CIT, okay.
Yeah.
She wants sort of the power and authority. She expects her little sister to just
submit,
and she discovers that in order to be an effective leader, you can't also have people like you. Which
Boy, I mean, sure, yes. It was
I'm
there.
Not
I'm not denying it.
I'm not saying this is a deep, ideological message to draw from it, but that is a fair representation of what I think kids do experience sometimes. It's like even at school, if they're put in charge of, say, a group project, and then they realize, okay, I can't just direct traffic here and everybody's going to follow me. I have to figure out how to lead. I have to get people I have the title, so I have the power, but I also, if people are really going to are going to follow me, then I've got to earn their respect in addition to just commanding them to do certain things.
And folks, right here and there, you got more substance out of what Todd just said out of the entire series that you'll ever see.
I mean, to your point, it's a formula. It's really obvious humor. I suppose it might appeal to kids in a very juvenile sort of way. It's fluff. It's fluff.
It is. There are just, again, I always come back to this. There are just better things to watch, better things to do with your time than to just watch another progression in the Disney freight train that is just going to give you entertainment. Because, again, we talked about this before. It's this cycle of children that they go through as well.
Yep.
So we've got some older kids that just need to evolve from Jesse. Well, let's just evolve them into another show, and I'm sure they could probably get another 2 shows out of these kids, this crop of children that they're growing there at the Disney
I think, yeah,
compound.
1 or 2 of them. They're getting a little old, a couple of them, I think. So I don't think they can go back to Narnia, after this particular show. Any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just wish that. Okay, okay. So here's the angle that I might take on this.
I'm just gonna say, Dave, it's Disney.
Well, but watch this. Disney is also the Muppets.
Oh no.
And
just because they own them doesn't mean they are the Muppets.
Somehow they're involved. They could
Of course
somehow connect with that because the Muppets, as we know, is pretty good.
Yes.
That is also pandering, quote unquote, sort of to the same audience.
Yes, but if you're going to go down that road, then you're going to have to say Disney is also Marvel and it's also Star Wars. And so far we haven't seen Mickey Mouse show up with, Thor and Luke Skywalker. So
Someday.
Yeah,
why not, right? Howard the Duck's in there, so there you go.
There you go. All right. You can follow us on Twitter, Parent Mistakes. You can like our page on Facebook, Parenting Mistakes. And should I mention the other thing we're on now? Yeah?
No.
No?
Not yet.
Okay, it's a secret.
Yes.
We'll tell you about something else down the road. So that's a tease.
Yes.
As they say in the business.
Well, now you've said it.
Nope, we'll save it for the next episode.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, Todd.
Until next time.
Yeah, that's right.